All right, welcome to Saturday. Here we are, day 10 of swimforrecovery.com. Day 10 of swimforrecovery.com. And some of you may have hopped on a second ago and then we had to hop off, but now we're back on. So that's kind of the way it rolls sometimes. I'm just going to do a sound check and we're going to get into this. So, hope your day's doing awesome. Thanks for tuning in on Saturday for the live broadcast. And maybe possibly you're tuning in on a replay. There we go. Maybe you're tuning on a replay. So, welcome, 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 welcome. Thanks for being here. So glad we have a great story to share today. Tim from Michigan is going to be sharing his story with us. But here we are, 10 days in, 10 miles, 660 laps, 166 lengths of a football swum, if you will. Just to give you a visual perspective, we're here to raise awareness about recovery because this is National Recovery Month. So, raising awareness about it. There's like National Overdose Day, there's National Suicide Prevention Day, month, all these things to just create awareness. So we're in recovery month right now. Excited for that. So please be engaged in this, and just love to have people kind of say, hey, if you're watching right now live or on the replay, type in where you tapping in from. We're on 5 different, let's see, 6 different Facebook platforms, LinkedIn, and YouTube today. So here we are hanging out, talking about recovery, sharing recovery stories, swimming a mile a day. And then also, I don't know if you know this at all, but if you go to swimforrecovery.com, all of the interviews are posted on there. So maybe you have friends that are not on social media, or maybe you're just passing by and you happen to catch this one video and you're like, man, I'm never on Facebook. Okay, cool. Just go to that website and you can actually watch all of the interviews that I've done. And so by the end of September, we'll have 30 interviews posted on that. The page will stay up. If you like what you're seeing and you want to help me help people that are seeking tools and resources, then that's really what this whole campaign's about. Help people with maybe sober living scholarships, counseling, therapy, support the Lift It From the Rut programs and podcasts, and just do all these kind of cool things like this online to reach so many people with a message of hope. So recap, we're on day 10. I swum my 660th lap this morning and completed the length of 176 football fields, if you want to get a visual there for a lot of people. So please, throughout the interview, throughout when I post Tim's story, just post a comment. And people can't know about this unless you share about it. So share this on your own platforms. Just repost this on your Facebook pages so people can actually see it that don't know me. They're not tapped in. But as you know, Facebook algorithms and all that stuff work. Not everybody, you can have 5,000 friends, but like 20 people get notified something's happening. So bummer on that, but we really want to get this message out to people. So check that out. So share the post. And then I also have a question before we get started, and maybe put this in while you're listening to Tim's story. What do you actually do for fun in recovery? What are some things you do? I know a lot of guys, there's like to go to music events with a sober group of people. And because, you don't have to like be a boring individual your whole life and avoid stuff. We want to recover to things that we enjoy doing, not recover from the stuff that used to hold us back. Right. So there's like sober motorcycle clubs out there. There's, the Phoenix Multisport. They don't call it multisport anymore, but the Phoenix all over the country. They do like hiking and biking trips and sober workouts and all that kind of cool stuff. There's great churches out there that have amazing programs where, it's kind of the focus is not drinking and partying or anything like that. It's about community and faith and supporting each other. So there are tons of resources out there. And if you need resources, then I'm going to put up, I don't think I have a banner with this on it, but I'll put one up later. I'll create it while Tim's speaking. So anyway, enjoy, because it's recorded. So enjoy Tim's story. And then, if you see things that are disturbing about addiction and stuff, post those things on your Facebook group, in your Facebook pages, to create awareness. I mean, recently I saw this one post about how many, I can't even remember the amount of fentanyl that was confiscated by, whoever they raided and found all this stuff, but just an incredible amount that is killing people left and right. It's so sad how we have, in today's day and age, we have the most counselors and therapists we've ever had in our culture. We have the greatest access to it, where people can go online. They can do telehealth. They can go online and watch, webinars, or just go to live events and ask questions online, and all these amazing resources. Like, access is huge, but yet we still have the highest season of addiction and mental health struggles around. Why is that? I believe it's because people are lacking hope, identity, and purpose, because it's not all about the substances, right? But let's let Tim talk about that a little bit. So I'm gonna bring Tim on, and again, feel free to post questions during Tim's interview, and put them in the chats, the comments, whether you're on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook, and then text this out to your friends. I want to challenge you today, if you're watching, text swimforrecovery.com out to your friends and said, "Hey, go check out this thing my friend Rob's doing, and just see what it's all about." See what it's all about. Go on there and watch the videos. If you like what you're seeing and you want to support the cause, then donate. Be a financial contributor to the campaign to help people that are seeking freedom from addiction and cannot afford those things. So here we are. We're going to go ahead and fire up share on my screen with Mr. Tim from Michigan. Enjoy his story. And I'm going to step off of here, and you get to watch the interview I did with Tim. It's going to be powerful. I always tell people, like, get out notepad, get out some stuff and write things down. And we're going to get rocking and rolling. So I'm going to pull me off the screen and just enjoy. All right, we're back at it in the Midwest right now. Got another recovery story on swimforrecovery.com. And Tim and I met, a while ago. And it's been cool to see what you're doing to help people around the country. But Tim, where are you sitting in Michigan right now?
I am currently sitting at home at my desk because we had a huge storm yesterday, knocked power out at my office. So, yeah, I'm in our new home. We just moved in a couple months ago. Yeah, enjoying it.
Cool.
But yeah, working
Congrats.
from home today.
All right, what city are you in?
We're in Howell, Michigan.
Howell, Michigan. All right, beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. I love it. And what would you consider your sobriety date?
Oh, that's a tough one. My years is 33 years. It was quite a fog in those days, so the date is in there somewhere.
Sometime 3 decades ago, right?
Yeah. Right.
Things happened, and Tim, why don't you just introduce yourself a little bit, and then just kind of start into your story. Oh, what was your drug of choice?
Drug of choice was alcohol. Was my main drug of choice.
All
Easiest
right,
to get a hold of. Yep.
there you go. Yeah, especially 33 years ago, right? We didn't have the
Yeah.
there was stuff back then, but it wasn't like the chaos that we see
Yeah.
today in the families you work with and all that kind of stuff too. So, so Timothy, tell us your
Yeah.
story a little bit. What was it? What was it like?
Yeah, so I deal with a lot of addicts as well. Some of us have tragic early start stories. Some of us have really comfortable, nice lives, and we end up addicts, alcoholics. It's no respecter of persons. But for me, I had a pretty rough start. My mother was raped as a young lady. I was the product of that rape. That was our start. So she had a struggle to want me, to love me. She was trying as a girl without a family to raise me without any support whatsoever. She became very bitter and angry and very abusive to me. And so that was kind of what started the ball rolling in a negative direction. But on top of that, 2.5 years old, her trying to go to work, giving me to the neighbor, I began to be sexually abused as well. So my mother's abuse, the sexual abuse that went on for almost 10 years from that point on, just spun me out of control, got my head. I was a worthless piece of crap that ruined my mom's life because I was born and it's all my fault. And, it just got worse and worse and worse. And then, 12 years old, we moved to a new neighborhood. Alcohol becomes this opportunity. And of course, as I said, that was my drug of choice, but anything I could get my hands on, to the point of huffing gasoline in the shed if I couldn't get behind something else. Just I had a need very quickly, after the age of 12, to use every day. And there was a lot of trauma, a lot of abuse. I grew up without a father. Just I was in my head. And when I used alcohol, drugs, I came out of that shell of being a worthless piece of crap, and I felt like I was somebody. Of course, that somebody was this wild, out of control partier, the guy that would, pick a fight with a stranger to just be cool for my friends, just an ugly, nasty version of me is who I became, just to belong and feel like I had an identity and that people noticed me. And unfortunately, they were the wrong people. But that's kind of where I turned the corner from, you know, a daily suicidal tendency too. My mother, one of her things was to tell me frequently, "Why don't you kill yourself so I don't have to look at you anymore?" To the point of, showing me how to lay on the train tracks and dropping me off and showing me how to put a knife through my throat. So I lived with this guilt that I couldn't kill myself for my mother. And I lived in that every day, like, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And then for a moment, when the drugs kicked in, I felt, man, I'm all right. I can make it. I got some friends. And then, of course, drugs and alcohol steal everything from us. So very quickly, those friends began to dissipate because I was more out of control than any of them. I was sicker than any of them. And the few family members that may have been around trying to hold on, they began to scatter and move away. And then it was a constant in and out of mental hospitals, in and out of detox centers, in and out of rehabs, in and out of counselors and therapists, trying to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. And, went through that for quite a few years.
Mm, man, that's a journey, and not knowing you too well, Tim. I know we've talked several times, but not knowing a lot of that of your story, and just what a dark time you experienced as a child and a young adult. And I know we'll get to the turning point when you found recovery and things, but just a curiosity question: what age were you when you kind of found understanding of that trauma when you were a child?
To be honest, I didn't really understand all that trauma. And there was a point when it ended. That's when I really raged out. I was 12 when sexual abuse ended. I, hit puberty, became strong and angry, and kind of took control of my life. But my way of dealing with it is to put it all in a box and say it didn't happen. So that went on for quite a few years. I was 38 before I even told a soul that I had lived through sexual abuse. That was my wife. And, even then it was this emotional, devastating moment, that it didn't need to be. But yeah, I went, my very, very first significant rehab experience was a place called Brighton Hospital. It's where all the superstars go out here. And I landed there. It was a 30-day program. I was there 38 days. They told me I was bipolar. They told me I was schizophrenic. They put me on some heavy duty meds. But my therapist was not a safe person for me. He had never drank or drugged in his life, and he was my guy to talk to. And I'm just sitting there, how the heck are you going to help me? And he was a homosexual man. So I had at that time a little bit of, I want to talk to somebody about this, but I just couldn't. I didn't know how to talk to him about it. I probably could have, but I didn't. So I just decided I'll just stuff all that, pretend it didn't happen. And so the trauma stuff kind of was there in the background for quite a while, through all my using years, especially. I was fine. I don't need help. I have nothing's wrong with me. It's kind of where I was at.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just a lonely place to be, right? And then
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
your substances, your alcoholism, your kind of all those things came to an end at some point because something kind of happened. What was the turning point for you?
Yeah. So, I went to plenty of rehabs. I relapsed after that 38-day thing. I relapsed the day I got out. I mean, I was just that chronic relapser. And I'd make a dumb excuse. The police pulled me over on the way to my first meeting. And I'm like, you know what? I'm destined to fail. I'm a loser. Nothing's ever works right for me. I give up. That's all it took. But I progressed in my using. It was an everyday thing. Again, I was the guy that got the shakes if I didn't drink in the morning. I was pretty progressed alcoholic. Um, Met a girl, fell in love, and the spark came like first time I'd ever loved anybody, first time I ever felt love. And I thought, you know what? This girl cares about me. She was from an absolutely toxic background as well. And so I started trying, trying to go back to school. I didn't have a driver's license, didn't have a high school education. By the time and I met her when I was 16, 17. My life was a mess. So I started trying again. I moved in with her. We played house. We were engaged at one point, about 2 years into it. And then I came home from work and caught her in bed with another person. And that was my turning point. I legitimately raged out, went insane. I left because the guy was a big dude, and I was not about to. He was a U of M hockey player, but I left. I went out and I drank. I relapsed that night. I drank as much as I could possibly drink. On the way back to enact my vengeance, crashed the car, left my buddies in a car, in the middle of a swamp, hurt, and just went straight to her house and raged out. And very, very violent night against her and her sisters. And the police came. I got violent with them. They beat the crap out of me, but I ended up back at my home with my mom and my stepdad. And as soon as the police drove away, I pulled all the phones out of the wall and I went berserk. And all night long, just raged out. And it was me basically coming to a final conclusion that, nobody's going to love me. Nobody's going to want me. I'm a piece of crap. And why do I keep trying? And it was my give up moment. And so I sat in the basement that night, and there was a note to go to another mental hospital on the table. My mom was calling places that night, and she had, figured out where she was going to take me. And I said, I'm not going back. So all I was going to do is head out the door with a gun. I had a gun in the car. I was going to go take my life. And I got to my doorstep, legitimately walked up, got to the door. As I got to the door, some guy was coming up a couple steps to meet me. And he's like, good morning. Great to see you, buddy. I'm Pastor Darren, and I'm here to tell you God loves you and invite you to come to our church. And I was, I was bloodied. I was hungover. It was an awful, awful night. And I didn't take that very well. I was like, who do you think you are telling me there's a loving God? You don't know my life. You don't know what I've lived. You don't know what happened. And I said some really, I don't think I've ever said words like I said to him, to anyone in my life, trying to just get him to leave me alone. Like, let me tell you the most disgusting things I can tell you when you tell me there's a loving God, and let's see if you're still standing here. And he was. He didn't move. He actually, was there just looking at me like he cared. And I didn't want to fall for that, because I had fallen for that a lot in my world, And then people, as soon as they meet me, they bail because I was too much work. But in the middle of it, recognizing it was a pastor and he was talking about God, there was something inside me that just said, what are the chances that there's a pastor on my door of all the days in my entire life? And I'm 5 minutes from ending my life. And there's a pastor that he was having a cup of coffee at Wendy's, and he said he felt a nudge to go knock on doors, and I was the first house he arrived at. And so that, as you can see, that was my turning point. I went from raging at him, screaming at him. I was going to fight him. I was actually I was almost homicidal because I was so angry. And then all that calmed down. I said, all right, I need to talk, come in. And he answered questions about faith and about God and about the Bible that I didn't grow up with that, so it all made sense and it all was clear, and it was all different than I believed it to be. The night before, I told God, if there is a heaven and hell, that was always my stopgap. I never committed suicide because I was afraid of that. But the night before, I said, if there's a heaven and hell, I don't want to be where you're at because you suck. That was my conversation with God. And then there's a pastor at my door, hours later, just standing there. And so that's where my journey began. He sat down, he basically talked spiritual talk and answered some really tough questions for me. And then he got up to leave after a prayer, invited me to pray with him and said, there's all it'll take to change your life is a prayer. And I'm like, okay, sounds too good to be true, but I got nothing to lose. And then as he got up to leave, then panic set in. I said, dude, I'm about to go into full scale withdrawal. I have no money. I have no plan. I'm about to be put in a mental hospital. Like, you can't just pray for me. Like, my life's a little more complicated than that. So he got on the phone and we made calls, and I ended up going to a place called Teen Challenge, which is a 1-year inpatient, Christ-centered residential program. And that's where I got my life back. That's where I got sober.
What was that like the first time you told that story in front of people?
Yeah, first time was at a high school in Plymouth, Michigan. A friend of mine who was just one of my good friends that watched me dissolve into nothing and couldn't do anything about it. At one point, he just washed his hands and walked away. When I got, didn't expect that would make me cry. But as I got sober, he was proud. He was like, look at my buddy, look what he did, look who he is. And he wanted to tell the world. So he invited me to his school, and I was going to sit in his classroom. And then they decided to take all that grade. I forget what grade it was. It was like 11th grade or 12th grade. And they put them all in the library. And we had this great big, so I was freaking out. I was so afraid of my own shadow. I was so insecure about me. Like, I thought I was going to die. But I will never forget, as I started talking, kids' eyes like locked into mine. Like, I could see it in their eyes, like some similar life or experience. And all of a sudden, the fear of being in front of people went away. I was like, I have to tell these people there's hope, and it was pretty surreal. It really, really was. And now I tell it all the time. I go to like 22 different high schools, and I work with some programs in the schools, and I probably cry every time I do it. It's weird. It's my story, and I think I've said it a million times, but it still hits me every time. Like, wow, like that happened for me. I'm here, and I never want to forget it. You got it. You got your past too. You don't want to forget where you came from and how hard it was to get where you're at. And so it's important to keep telling our stories and, you know, not forget. I am not a perfect person, and I'm one step away from being right back there. And I can't forget that either, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. I'm glad the Holy Spirit kind of got prompted me to ask that question. I just kind of try to pay attention because
Yeah.
I mean it's powerful, and people need to hear, adults need to hear that, kids, and the freedom that
Right.
that they can find. And so thanks for sharing that,
Hmm.
part of your story.
Yeah.
And then this could be like a whole like total podcast show, right? Of just kind of getting into it. But that's why I'm doing this share
Right.
stories in September, because
Yeah. Awesome.
your story's going to resonate with someone. Someone's going to find that freedom and hopefully go ask for help with a safe
Right.
person in recovery. So
Yeah.
what was kind of like early recovery like? And then let's kind of talk about recovery where you are now, and what
Yeah.
have you been doing to have fun in recovery?
Yeah, great question. Early recovery for me was different than most. I had done AA, court ordered AA from all my trouble, and I'd always meet up with somebody and go party. I was young. I wasn't even 18, and I was going to AA meetings. So I'd meet some girl, and she'd go, "Oh, let's hang out," and anyway, it was a bad experience. When I got sober, after my time at Teen Challenge, I didn't finish the year either. We had a meltdown in our leadership, so I came back home. But I lived with my pastor every day. I was at his office. Well, I lived in my car, literally. Like I left, my family said, "No, we're not trusting you. How many rehabs have you been to and said you're a new man? You can't come back to our home." So I lived in a car behind the church, no driver's license, no education, so literally that was my home. And they put gas in it so I could heat myself. And then during the day, I'd go in, I'd pray with him in the morning, read scripture, I'd lick envelopes for the church secretary, I'd vacuum the floors, clean the toilets, they'd give me a couple meals. And I was on top of the world. Like I had so much peace. But my world for recovery was every single opportunity I got to be around healthy, successful people, I did it. So for me, it was church. I went to church nonstop. I mean, there was a Bible study, there was a conference, there was something, I was there. And that's not typical for addicts. I will tell you, though, as that progressed, I realized that none of these people understand, the depths of my struggle. And so I wasn't safe around all church people. A lot of them had some story. Oh, everything went away. It wasn't that easy. It was so as I got older, 12 years in, I surrounded myself with recovery, began to do a program called Celebrate Recovery at our church. And, we grew to be the largest one in the state of Michigan. We had 250 people, testimonies every night. It was life-giving and powerful. And, my growth, even as a Christian, I grew and I matured and I healed and all that happened. But when I brought recovery into my faith journey at that level, my growth line was like a trajectory, like a rocket ship, and because often in church settings, I'm an ordained pastor too, but the safety to be real and honest isn't there, and people aren't that honest. And so we're limited in our growth. We're limited how deep the work of God can reach us because we don't feel like we can tell somebody that stuff. So that was kind of my journey too, as a Christ follower and as a person in the church, is to say, what, I'm going to be the guy who says it all out loud and empowers other people to feel safe and tell their stories and realize God can meet them where they are and love them where they are. And if there's some idiot religious self-righteous person that can't handle that, that's their problem, because we need absolute truth if we're going to heal, right?
Yeah, vulnerability is huge, and people don't know how to handle that, right? It's kind of like, hey, it's a
Yeah.
moral dilemma. Sorry, Tim, you went through that, but yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
hey, church people, fellow Christians, listen up to that. That's really important right there. And to be a non-judging community that's judging,
Yeah,
it's
no.
always sad to hear that. But
Yeah.
so, what do you do like today to maintain a healthy life?
Yeah, so I'm a life coach now. So I pastored for 12 years. I started as a youth pastor. We had an indoor skate park, 10,000 kids in 10 years came through the door. So incredible opportunity to mentor young men and young people in general as a youth pastor. Then I was a youth and family pastor, missions director. I wore a lot of hats. I was pretty passionate about what I did. And then a few years ago, we were called out of that, and it was a big, scary step. But what I do now is basically disciple people one-on-one all day, every day. I have a lot of one-on-ones. I see a lot of people, some with tragic trauma and addiction struggles, and some not. So that, believe it or not, is a big part of my therapy, because I'm always talking recovery and growth and these principles that I practice in all my affairs. But I also I go to meetings all the time. A couple years back, when I left the church, felt a little loss of community, because pastors kind of have to go on and let go of that, it's just the way it works. And I was at an AA meeting 5 days a week. And the first 2 weeks I was there, 8 people were baptized that came to me and said, "Dude, you sound like you got a spiritual program. Like, could you help me figure out step 3? Man, I'm really stuck." And so, that was powerful. And when I travel, I always go to meetings. I do it for my own safety and security. Like, I will find a meeting with strangers in whatever state I'm in, and just sit down. And it could be AA, it could be NA, it could be Celebrate Recovery, it could be Reformers Anonymous. There's a lot of them out there. Some better than others, but you know what? They all work for me if I want to be around some people trying to stay sober.
Yeah, good for you, man. There's community all over. I remember when I got sober, I ran a marathon with Team Diabetes in honor of my grandpa. And 2 years into recovery, I went to Rome, and just all I didn't care about any of the stuff to see. I just wanted to go to a recovery meeting over there,
That's cool.
and that was really special and cool. So, well, hey
Yeah,
Tim, thanks.
I do have a nonprofit, Recovery Advocates in Livingston County. I was approached 2 years ago, and they just said, "Hey, we want a director for this nonprofit." The whole goal of the nonprofit is to put people in the place they need to go in recovery. So people get lost in the systems, making phone calls, they don't know where to go. And so somebody said, "Hey, we've got Purdue Pharma's money from the lawsuits from the opioid crisis, and we want to give you $180,000 to just build out a system and help people take those next steps." So that's pretty awesome. So, I'm in recovery all day there. We do AA meetings, Celebrate Recovery meetings, NA meetings, and my world is recovery. I live with recovering addicts and alcoholics and sex addicts and every kind of addiction you can imagine, day in and day out. And, that's how I stay safe and sober. Tomorrow is Overdose Awareness Day, National Overdose Awareness Day. So we're holding a big event through another nonprofit that I'm a part of. We opened 2 women's recovery homes here in Livingston County through that work. But we're doing that. We're bringing all the community members that work in addiction to one place, downtown Brighton. We got a band. We tell stories and testimonies, and then we have the sad part of it is honoring the people that lost their battle to addiction. So we have a little carnation ceremony, and we read names, and those names go on and on and on and on. But it's really just to get rid of the stigma of recovery that they're a bunch of losers that deserve it, and also just to help people heal and move on after those things happen, and help them process it, and to tell our community it's here. They like to put their head in the dark and say, "We don't have those problems here," and it's in every community in the United States now. It's obviously the epidemic that we're really struggling with.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you and sharing your story on swimforrecovery.com. I know it's going to impact a lot of people, and just keep up the great work you're doing there back in Michigan, man. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Rob. Yeah, appreciate you too. Keep it up, man.
All right, you got it. Yeah, for sure.
All right.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for tuning into another recovery story on swimforrecovery.com. Please share this video with people. Share the link above my head with people. And really passionate about this right here. Please share the post. So again, swimming a mile a day to create awareness for people and just sharing people's recovery stories. I'm talking about statistics and recovery tools and those things too throughout the month of September. And the primary thing is just hearing someone's stories, what they went through. Maybe it'll encourage you. Maybe it resonated with you, but you thought of someone else that it would really kind of hit their heart and maybe help them break the chains and break free from addiction. So that's all we have for today. Enjoy it. It is Saturday, September the 10th, and love the month of September. I mean, I was born in September. My son's born in September. My old dog Jake was born in September. My brother's anniversary is in September. It's recovery month in September. So a lot of cool things there. But thanks for tuning in. And again, please share the video. Again, it's not for my benefit. It's for the benefit of people that can watch those stories and maybe connect with Tim, and just connect with people that are being interviewed and reach out to them. So lastly, if you're watching this to the end and you want to type something in the chat or comments, what do you do for fun in recovery? What do you do for fun in recovery? So that's it for the broadcast today. Hopefully you enjoyed it a ton. And, I like doing these kind of things. It's like, boom. I love doing StreamYard is actually pretty cool. So Get Lifted TV, you're going to see more of that coming in October. For now, we're using Get Lifted TV for what we're doing for the Swim for Recovery campaign. So God bless. Thanks for tuning in. And that's pretty much it for today. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.